Okay, it's time for another episode of My Lunch with Andre. And once again, I'm not going to be eating any lunch because I don't want to be seen on camera eating lunch. One of these days I'll do it, but not today. You know, I got to the show and there's this guy named Thomas Mulrady. Did he talk to you?
No, I did not talk to him.
Yeah, he has a website called Cool Cleveland,
Uh-huh.
and he's part of that website. And every year he comes to AXPONA and he puts the microphone on me and he asks me a question to answer. He asks a bunch of people the same question, and then he has this filming technique where he walks around in circles. So it's really weird. He does it because he thinks a static shot looks boring, but so you have to spin around with him while you talk. His question to me was, is there a problem with diversity in the high-end audio business? And I answered that question as best as I could. And
Yeah.
First of all, I think the industry is what it is. It's
Yeah.
male dominated. It's basically white male dominated industry to a great degree. But at this show, there's also a large Asian contingent in the business. And at this show, I thought the number of Black and Hispanic people that were at the show was a new high. And I thought it was fantastic. What did you think?
Yeah, I mentioned it in my show report. I've been covering the shows for over a decade now, and looking at the number of participants that were at the show this year that were more diverse than the core of what's in our hobby. There were a lot more people there this time, and I did notice it fairly quickly, on day one of the show, and that continued on through day two and day three. And there were a lot of women,
Yeah.
a significant amount of younger adults, which I don't want to go off on a tangent, but the idea that our hobby is dying off, as we get older, people have been saying that for 70 years. Well, guess what? When we go, there are more people that are older again, and they have the means and the money to support this portion of the hobby. So I don't buy that argument today. I didn't buy it 20 years ago, and I won't buy it 40 years from now. The hobby will still continue on. People love music and they like to listen to music. Getting back, go ahead. I was going to say
I agree. And it's like classical music. People say, you ever go to a classical music concert? It's a lot of old people. What happens when they die off? And I say, you know what? There'll be more old people being made, and they will end up going to the concert.
That is 100% correct. There's always someone to backfill, and that happens all the time. So yeah, I don't buy that part of it. But there were a significant number of young people there that were at the show, walking around, looking at systems, and because of the variety of the systems that they had there, the price points, it pretty much covered everything, including lifestyle systems. So, husbands and wives are coming in who aren't looking for, large systems that would dominate a listening room or a living room. They have options also, and they were at the show. The number of people there of color, all colors, was significantly more than I've seen before. And I even stopped a couple of people and asked them, how did you find out about the show? Is this your first time? And a significant number of them said this was their first time at the show. And how they found out about it, it was either through a friend who was an audiophile or through social media. And I talked to Liz Smith at the show. I keep wanting to say her old name Miller, but it's Liz Smith now because she's married.
Right.
And I talked to her about it, and she did say they did some reaching out and targeted on social media for younger individuals and more people to get a larger diversity group of individuals to come to the show. And everyone I asked really enjoyed it. When I asked them, how did they find out about the show and if they're enjoying themselves, and they were surprised at the number of products that were available and the sound quality at the show of some of those products. And they enjoyed it a lot, and they're looking forward to coming back next year. So I think they're moving in the right direction to increase the pool of buyers that are available, to support our hobby, whether it's for young people or older individuals, and whatever they fall on the diversity spectrum. I think growth in the industry is a good thing for everyone.
I thought this show was the most reminiscent of the Warsaw show. I don't know if you've ever been to the Warsaw show.
No, I have not.
Warsaw show was like this show, which means a lot of young people, a lot of whole families were there to have an outing, like a day out to do something with the family. And that was something I've never seen before at these shows. These shows were always mostly guys, older guys showing up. But this show was a turnover that I didn't really expect, and I was so happy to see it. And I think what's driving it to a great degree are headphones and vinyl. For some reason, those two segments of the market seem to be driving young people to show up, and the headphone areas were crowded with kids. I mean, everybody's a kid to me at this point, but yeah, it was fantastic, I thought. And and there are, we have women in the business. We have, Ivana Manley and B Manley, and who are not related. And, yeah, and a bunch of other women in the business. There are transgendered people in the business too. There are a few of them. So, we've got a wide variety. And there was a very angry comment on my website on trackingangle.com from a reader who was saying, this diversity thing, this is political correctness and blah blah blah, and we don't get over it. It's a mostly male dominated white audience and blah. And I said, there's nothing wrong with asking the question, because it should be spread further. We should get different kinds of people to come into this hobby. There's no reason why it should be limited to one particular kind of person. And I think we're getting there, which is great.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. I mean, the facts are what they are. Men typically enjoy solo listening to music, and we all, have a interest in how equipment works and all the knobs and the dials, and the more complicated, the more interest someone has in doing this, and that's where all the tweaks and everything else come into play, and buying this and that and whatever else. So there's that aspect of the music of the hobby, but you know what? There are a lot of other individuals who are also interested in the systems, the music, the playback, and enjoying it and having high quality sound. And to be able to reach out to those individuals and let them know that this is part of our hobby, I think it's a great thing. You get in, you listen. So I know for a fact when we have people over and they visit who aren't audiophiles, and they sit and we listen and we play music, whether, pick your source. I'm not gonna go all vinyl and analog on the folks listening here, but you pick your source and you listen, and they love the sound, and they're interested.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of steer them towards, systems within whatever their budget, they have is, and you can help them to get started with this, whether it's a pair of headphones or, a low-cost vinyl rig, with the integrated amplifier and a pair of speakers, just something to get them interested and started in the hobby. I think it's good.
Yep. I tell women that I meet with their husbands, I said, wouldn't you rather have your husband downstairs listening to music than running out and going to clubs and meeting people? And they say, yes, I'd rather have him home. So.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. Yeah, I'm not at the bar.
Exactly. I'm drinking at home alone, listening to music. Okay.
Well,
so what was the most annoying thing at AXPONA for you?
Annoying. Huh. That's a interesting question. I may need to ruminate on that a little bit. Why don't you give me one of yours to kind of get me started?
No problem. Two annoying things. The first annoying thing is a lack of imagination in presenting music. The musical choices seem to get worse and worse every year. And we've moved past Stevie Ray Vaughan, Couldn't Stand the Weather, and Diana Krall, which I have nothing wrong with that music, but to play that in rooms year after year, or Eagles Long Run, it just gets to be boring. So that's not happening. But there just doesn't seem to be very few rooms where people were saying, let me play this for you. Let me introduce you to this music. I just found this. Anything like that. There was very little of that. So that was annoying to me. And it just has to be more imagination paid to selecting a musical program and turning people onto new music, because that's important to make this hobby grow as well, as far as I'm concerned. The other annoying thing, and this is a case, I saw this in Montreal, and I've seen this at a lot of shows, very poor signage, where you go into a room. This is a show, and to me, a show means you're putting on a show. It's not just setting up equipment in a room. You need a plant, you need some lights, you need signage. So this is what this speaker is. This is what this amplifier is. And a one sheet. Every room should have a one sheet. Here's what you're listening to in this room. And let me hand it to you. And not just for the press, but even for the average consumer. And there's also, when a room is set up by a manufacturer, it's one thing. When a room is set up by a dealer, it's another thing. You walk into rooms, and in some rooms, you're not sure who the host is of the room. And so people are spending all this money to rent these rooms and these spaces and put all this money into it. And they don't do what I think is an effective job of promoting and identifying who they are and why they're there and what they're presenting. It seems to me that's a basic of what should be done, and it's not being done. And it annoys the hell out of me.
Okay, let's see. Well, I think that the one issue, and we kind of touched on it when we did our preview show for AXPONA, which was getting the one sheets, having the information available for you so you can report. And if they don't have it, my thing is, hey, get me an email before press my deadline. And if I get it, you're on the list to be included potentially. If I don't get it, well, I have nothing to write about because you didn't show up. You didn't get me the information I needed.
Yeah.
There were a lot of rooms that I visited that did have press sheets and information for me that was available. There were some, I will not name them, but they did not have sheets for me. And their idea was they had one piece of paper, no copies of it at all, and I could write down off of that what I wanted to write down, and that was it, in the time frame that I had to go through some things. So that was a little disappointing that they couldn't, make I don't know, 50 copies or 100 copies or whatever it is that they needed for press, especially for a new product introduction. And this was a new product introduction. So what I ended up doing was I found the sheet and I ran over to a light, took a picture of the information that I needed. And then I had to, go through my photos and everything and capture and get pictures. I would really like to have that made available so it makes it a lot easier for us to get the information we need, especially the details about the new products, so we can write about them properly and not miss specific items that are important to the core function of the devices. So that was one thing that, if there was any annoyance, that was mostly it. I don't like paying $5 for a small 16-ounce bottle of water. That was a problem that I have, and I don't know what can be done about that, other than go and get your own water, which we did bring with us. So that was fine. But the hotel's cost of water during lunchtime was at $5 for 16 ounces of water. Seems a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
For that. The music issue is interesting. I'm of two minds of that. I'll take it from a consumer standpoint first, or someone who is looking for equipment. Typically, there are a couple of cuts of music that they want to hear, and the dealers and distributors who are showing, they know that if they play certain pieces of music, something that someone may know and be familiar with, and they can hear their stereo system playing that music back. And so when they go to another room and listen and do a comparison, there's something to play back that they like to listen to. Now, from a writer standpoint, being introduced to new music is okay, and that's fun, but I'm there to do a job. And I like listening to new music, but first thing I need to do is I need to be able to assess what's going on with the stereo system. in show conditions, which aren't perfect. We all know that, and then things aren't going to sound optimized, but at least I have some consistency. So I bring my own music with me, and I'll ask them to play some of that.
Are they willing to? Are they willing to play what you bring?
Yes, they will play what I bring. I don't think I've ever had a situation this year where I asked to play something and someone said no.
Do you find that manufacturers are willing to play requests for consumers who come into rooms too?
I think they are. I think they some are a little cautious because they look to see what it is, depending on, the type of music it is, or the physical condition of the format, if it's not something that, they can request it streamed. So that just to make sure the record isn't, marred and scratched, and, you're playing it with a multi-$1,000 cartridge, just you don't necessarily want to do that.
No.
So I think for the most part they play, but I brought music with me, and since I've never done a show and tell like you have, you always have very good show and tells.
Yeah.
I'll try this rather reserved version of it here, and I'll show you a couple of the albums I brought.
Sure.
One of them here is Lady Blackbird, and the album is called Black Acid Soul, and it's very good. She sings in a tone that's very similar to Nina Simone. There's a mixture of a few other artists with her, but it was very good music to play. And every room I played it in, most of the people really enjoyed it and listened to it. And it's available on Qobuz and Tidal, so someone who's doesn't have an album can stream it.
I have that record, actually. I have that record. Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, and it's very good. And then I brought an old one, which was, Bill Withers.
Yeah.
Here, Just As I Am, and played a couple tracks off of that, and that was really good. And then Duke Ellington's Jazz Violin Sessions.
Yep.
This is an excellent album.
Yep.
Very good sounding. And then, of course, this is an early pressing. Actually, this is a mono.
Yeah.
Early pressing of Nat Cole. And I brought that for mono. If someone has a mono cartridge on their turntable to play it. And Jeff Cantelotto at High Water Sound obviously did. So we enjoy listening to that while we talk. He
always plays great music. He's a music lover.
Yes.
And you can go in that room and he'll play great music and put on a show in that sense. He doesn't put on a show by playing favorites. He plays good music.
Oh no, Jeff will play. He has a nice collection of really good music, and he usually covers several genres of music. And so when you go in there, it's become a yearly thing where it's like, I won't call it a stump Jeff, because it's very hard to stump Jeff with a piece of music you walk in there with, because he knows it. But I generally bring in some music that's really good, and we'll play it and listen to it on the systems that he has there. And he pulls out something for me to hear also. And I always go home with something interesting to look for and pick up.
Exactly. Or many records that you have to end up buying when you visit his room. It can be very expensive in his room just buying records.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. The other one that's Massenet's
oh yes,
Le Cid. So I had that.
Very famous.
And yes, I've got 4 different copies of it, but that's the one I bring because it's the least expensive of all the ones I have.
Yeah.
And then Memories of Thelonious Sphere Monk, Milt Jackson in London. This is an excellent record. There's a version of Around Midnight.
Yeah, Monty Alexander.
Yes.
I interviewed him.
Ray Brown, Monty Alexander, and Mickey Roker. There's a version of Round Midnight on here that's captivating. And because it's Monty Alexander and Ray Brown on there, it's not guitar and bass, it's piano and bass, and it's really good. Yeah. It's an excellent recording. And then there's I think I brought a copy of Dire Straits, one of their albums also, which I didn't get to play. I was involved with a bunch of other stuff. So that's my debut show and tell, Michael. I don't know if it's really good or not, but that's all I could. That's what I got for you. So
I'll show you
I did bring music at the show.
I'll show you what I brought. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but I brought this lacquer.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So this is Patrick Leonard, who has a new record coming out. Now, Patrick Leonard, some people are saying, who's Patrick Leonard? But if you know Roger Waters' Amused to Death and you look on the credits, he produced that record with Roger Waters. His name came first. And Patrick Leonard also produced the last three Leonard Cohen records. And Patrick Leonard also produced Madonna and all these other people. And so I'm helping him do the vinyl version of this record. And Chris Bellman cut the lacquers, and it was plated at RTI. And Chris cut me a reference acetate, and I brought it around to show and play it to people so they could hear how it's going to be, if you like Amused to Death, this is going to be equally good. It's a heavy production. He's got Martin Barr from Jethro Tull playing on here. He called in a lot of favors, and a lot of people did guest spots on this. So I brought that record, which was a lot of fun. And then I brought,
Okay. Did they do any of the stereo phase related manipulation that's on Amused to Death?
you like Q Sound?
Yeah, similar to that. Did they add that on there, or they didn't?
They didn't use Q Sound in particular, but when I played this record at the show, it sounded good in some rooms, not good in other rooms. And when I got it home and played it, the three-dimensionality and the stuff showing off way to the left of the speakers was there. Whatever he used, it was the sound at home was amazing. And this record, when it comes out, is going to be a tour de force of fun sound, and really great playing, great drum sound, and it's one of these world views, one of these apocalyptic world views, like Amused to Death kind of thing, because they're both into that kind of thing. Really entertaining kind of sonic tour de force where you turn the lights out and you go someplace for four sides. It's gonna really be great. So I brought that. I brought a few other lacquers, and I brought a file of the record that I'm producing. That I don't know if I talked about this last time. If I did, I'm sorry. I'll show you. So I'm producing this record. So this is Rufus Reed, the bass player, and that's a kid named Kalen Cardello, who's a young pianist. And I went to this Clavier House and saw this performance, which Clavier House is a piano showroom. And a friend of ours, Jim Luce, was putting on these shows of young pianists, like a showcase kind of thing. So we were expecting a bunch of young pianists, and in walks Rufus Reed. It was like, whoa. And he brings this Kalen Cardello guy, and they sit down and they start playing. And it was like, his playing is very lyrical and kind of like Bill Evansy. And I said to my friend, boy, it's a shame they're not recording this. This is magic. And he goes, oh, they are recording it. And so we went backstage, and the engineer is a friend of ours, and they were shooting it on video also. And I said, we should release this record. And so we are. We got the rights to do it. So, and Bob Ludwig mastered it. I sent it to Bob, and Bob said, you know what? I'm retiring soon, and in 5 years, everyone's going to know this kid. So I'll master this for you, which he did. And so we're going to put it out on vinyl, and I'm really excited by it. This kid's going to get signed by one of the major labels, I'm sure. And this will be his first record, just like, Wayne Shorter had a record on VJ when he was a young man, and then he got signed by Blue Note. And so this kid is really, really good. I mean, I listened to this, and Rufus and him had never played together. Rufus had been following him around at clubs because he heard this kid once, and he said, this kid's got something special. And Rufus was following him around, listening to him at clubs, and then approached him about doing this event together at this Clavier House, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday afternoon in the winter. Yeah. And they agreed to do it. And they got together an hour before the show and decided what tunes they were going to do. So all covers of, Cedar Walton, other piano players. And they sat down and they did this live without ever having played together. And you could tell this level of communication between them was like, it was amazing. It was magic. And we have it recorded, and we're going to put it out. I'm so excited by this.
Wow. That should be fun. I would like to listen to that.
Yeah.
How did they record it? At what bit rate did you end
Yeah,
up doing?
it was a 9624 recording
Okay.
by an engineer named Duke Marcos. And I know Duke, and Duke does a lot of the live sessions for WBGO when they have live sessions in Newark at WBGO. And he also does recording at the Kennedy Center. So he's a really good engineer, and they have great microphones on the Fazioli piano. And the sound is, Joe Harley helped me with the mix. He listened to the first mix. He had some feedback, and I gave it to Duke, and we did about 5 or 6 or 7 mixes to get this to just really coalesce, because it's just a piano and bass. So there was a way to put it on the stage in a way that they weren't like in different time zones. They were like, but not so close that it was mono. And
Right.
the miking had the left and right hand separated. And I don't like it when you're the piano player. I don't like being the piano player when I listen to recorded music. I want to be in the audience. I want the piano to be in one place. But we finessed it so the left and right hands are like kind of front and back, so the way it would be on a real piano. I
Okay.
think it came out great. I'm really excited. So we're doing the artwork now, and then we'll get it cut next week, and I think it's going to be pressed at QRP, and I think we're going to get it. Where the first cut we're going to get is going to be at QRP at Blue Heaven Studios, where they have Doug Sax's the mastering lab, tube set up there. We'll get a cut of that, and I think it's going to be good. And that's what we're going to do. And I think this record's going to, I think it's going to do. We're doing it for love. We don't want to lose money. If we make money, that would be great. But we're doing it because we just think it's so good. And Rufus is down with it. He's good with it. So and the record's called "Who's the New Cat?" Because
All right.
at the beginning of it, Jim Luce, who's the concert promoter, says, people are all asking, "Who's the new cat? Who's coming along? That's the new cat." Well, maybe it's Kalen Cordello, and I think it is. And then I'll shut up. I went to an event at OMA with Christian McBride.
Before you go there, I just want to say one thing. I know the producer of that record you're talking about, so I'm going to contact that guy and ask him if I can get a copy of that record.
The Christian McBride record.
No, I'm talking about the one that you're doing. You're the producer.
Oh,
I know you.
You do know. Who is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think you do. I think you do. It's
all right.
I wasn't thinking of me, even though it is me. And my friend Robin White also. I wasn't thinking of me. It's like one time I was on a plane, and we were sitting in the front of the plane and on the tarmac, and the pilot came out to do something, and he looks at her and he goes, "You're on on this plane." And I go, "Who's on this plane? There's somebody famous on this plane." I turned around to see who it was. He was pointing at me. He was a reader. And he came over and said, "I got a problem with my turntable. Can we talk about it?" I said, "No, we're going to go to Japan first. And when we land, we'll talk about your stylus rake angle, because I don't want to confuse stylus rake angle with takeoff rake angle. I don't want to be responsible for, anything happening to a plane." So that's all know this story. Anyway, yes, of course, I'll get you a copy. Of course.
All right.
You too.
Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. As you may know, I'm Tom Martin, Chief Content Officer of The Absolute Sound. We have a new product. It's on the Substack platform, and we're going to do some interesting things with Substack. First of which is reader questions and answers. Each Monday, readers will submit questions, we'll pick the most interesting ones, and we'll answer the questions on Friday. We'll also have early access to articles and special blogs that don't appear anywhere else. We hope you'll join us. It's only a cost of a cup of coffee per month. Just check on the screen or in the show notes below. Thanks, and now back to the show.
All right. So the OMA thing you were talking about with Christian McBride?
Yeah, so I go to this event, and Christian McBride has a new album out, which I have over here, and I would hold it up if I could find it. Which wait 1 second? Let me see if I can find it. Yes, I can. Can I go get it? I want to show it to you.
Of course you can.
Let me go get it. Pardon my private areas. This is it right here. So it's Christian McBride's new drum. This is the second record he's put out with this particular group. And it's got Nasheed Waits on drums and Marcus Strickland on tenor sax and bass clarinet and Josh Evans on trumpet. And this isn't one of Christian McBride's like for the masses records where he's doing covers and it's nice, pretty, like Ray Brown did a lot of that kind of stuff. This is, Ornette Coleman covers and what else is on here? Ornette Coleman, Sonny Rollins. He does East Broadway Rundown. So there's a combination of great classics, but not the easiest records to listen to, and originals by guys in the band. And Todd Whitelock did the engineering. If you know Todd Whitelock, he does all of Cecile McLaurin Salvant's records. He's a really great engineer. So this record sounds great. So they premiered it at OMA, and I went there, and Christian was there, and other guys in the band, and most of the New York jazz cognoscenti were there. So I got to meet a lot of really cool people, which is really fun. And I mentioned this kid, Kalen Cardello, and they all knew him. They all said, "Oh, Kalen,
Oh, wow.
Kalen, he's gonna be something." I said, "I'm putting out his first record, man." It was like, it was so cool. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go back to AXPONA and talk about what a great show it was. And did you see anything new that particularly struck you?
Yeah, sort of. There was a turntable that Yuki APO1, which was in the Axis audio room. It's all metal. That was an interesting take and look at that turntable. Unfortunately, I didn't get to listen to it. When I came back the next day, the transrotor was in the system, so I heard the system played back with the transrotor table, which gave me a chance to listen to the new Gouder.
I'm getting
that.
I'm getting that turntable to review.
Oh, the Yukio one,
yeah,
APO one. Okay.
In the Absolute Sound, I'm going to review it. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, those people.
Let's see.
The guy that designed that the company is a medical technology company, and the guy is an audiophile and decided he would put his machining skills used in medical technology into audiophilia. So that's where I interviewed them in Munich last year, and so yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one. That's one I was going to mention. So we're on the same page,
Okay, yeah. So that was interesting. For all those new folks that were at the show, that had never been to a show before, and they're young and they don't necessarily know how to care for their vinyl. The new Spin Clean record washer, because he's made some adjustments to it, it's an easy recommendation for anybody to start out with, trying to figure out how to clean your records, wet clean them, at least get started doing it, and not just using a record brush. So I thought that was a nice little piece that they did. Sonorous Audio had the ATR-10 Mark II tape deck there. He's made some adjustments to that, so that looks interesting. It would probably make a good review piece for the magazine to talk about. Also, let's see, you already did the SME table, but I talked to Stuart, the CEO of SME, and we went through the entire design of that table and all the changes that were made. They are significant compared to the old SME 30.
Absolutely.
People are looking at that thinking that, oh, it's just a couple of changes. No, it's not. There's a significant number of changes that are on that table. That was really interesting.
The arm, especially, to
yes,
carve an arm, machine an arm out of this, high-tech polymer, and the performance of that arm is so far superior to the old magnesium arm in terms of resonances. And,
right.
As much as I don't work for the same people I used to work for, there's some measurements you can find online of that arm that were done at this other magazine, and it's what I heard is what he measured. You could hear the improvement, the lack of a signature at the bottom end being fairly flat, and yeah, they made real changes to that, and the suspension is much better too. Every part of it is better.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
However, it's for a person who doesn't like to experiment too much. Because you can't have more than one arm. You can't change arms easily, and that's fine. It's for someone who wants a really great table that you set up and play and enjoy listening to records. Not for someone who wants to tweak and change arms and do all
right. It's a high-end, high-quality turnkey solution.
Yep.
It's a vinyl front end that is ready to go. You buy it, it gets set up, and you don't have to touch it again. You just play your music, pick your cartridge, pick your phono stage, and should be trouble free for the duration that you own the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it's for. And good, high quality turnkey solutions are really great.
Yep.
One of the low cost ones at the show was the little the one from gosh, you see the name escapes, Yamaha, the little Yamaha table.
Yeah.
In their High Flight series, that little flagship table they have, it's underhung, which is kind of not my thing. So
that's my only issue with it.
But I can't argue that it sounded pretty good. The whole system as a whole together sounded pretty good. And then, DS Audio, they took a page out of the same. Well, they took the same page out of the book that AT did with the diamond cantilever stylus combination, and that's in the DS Audio EX. So that's interesting. That the cartridge sounded pretty good in the room.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of bloat out of it, which I think was from the room. And there was a mistracking on some of Lady Blackbird's vocal transients, but that's a setup issue. I'm pretty certain.
Very, very expensive piece to buy. Aki, the guy from the company, told me that stylus and cantilever assembly costs them a few $1,000s. And so when you multiply that by the normal 5 times cost, it's adding almost $10,000 to the cost of their cartridge. So that's why that cartridge costs $22,000. On the other hand, Audio-Technica, because they can do amazing things for less money, they basically took the R20, which is like a $3,000 cartridge, added that stylus, and they sell theirs for $9,000, which to me, to say a $9,000 cartridge is a bargain, but it is a bargain. I have that cartridge in the SAT 12-inch arm right now, and I'm going to review that in TAS, the 12-inch arm. It's amazing. I'm not getting much sleep. I've been up every night till like 2, 3 in the morning playing records I thought I knew really well, and for that to happen at this point in my career, and I'm playing records, and whether it's Little Feat or, everything I'm pulling out. I went through the entire Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan, the pressing that I bought in 1965. It still sounds fantastic. And I played it, the whole thing, all 4 sides. And I was hearing things I never heard before. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sure that cartridge is in the DS is the epitome of what that system can do. I'm sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear that cartridge in a setting that I'm familiar with. So it'll be interesting when it shows up.
Yeah, very exciting times. This is a very exciting period of time right now, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Hi-fi and music, and I spent a lot of time in the Orenda room looking at servers and DACs and streamers. And I did a whole thing on that on my YouTube video, because I think it's important for all of us who are known as analog people to be in that world also. There's just so much going on in the digital world that you have to do both. But I was in a room where a company is going to be introducing, and it was top secret and can't talk about the brand, but they're going to come out with a new CD player. And they said, okay, we're going to play for you now the CD of this particular piece of music, and we're going to play for you the highest quality stream, high resolution stream. And what do you think? And you know what? The CD sounded so much better than the stream. I don't know whether they just particularly manicured that particular combination because it was better, or whether it's a general thing, but they are really high on this CD player they're introducing. And it makes me wonder whether it was a smart thing for me to take hundreds or thousands of CDs and rip them and put them on a server rather than keeping the CDs. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah. Okay. I know you can't mention the CD player of the company, but can you mention the music that they played?
No, I can't even remember. It wasn't a familiar piece of music to me, but it was a vocalist with a small combo behind, and the difference was in just the texture of the vocals. It was the CD had this kind of smoother, cleaner, rounder, more nuanced texture, and the stream sounded two-dimensional and with hard edges. You know, edge definition was too hard and crunchy. So
Okay. The reason I asked is because I've ran across this on Qobuz and Tidal, where it is really dependent on the mastering and whether it's a remaster or an older mastering of the music. And even the, 24-192 or 24-96 may not sound as good as the 1644, and it ends up being strictly a mastering issue.
Yeah.
That has happened sometimes with some of the music I've heard. So you can actually hear that without a player, depending on what you're doing. But you could pull up a couple of high-res downloads, listen to them, and then listen to the standard 1644 piece and decipher yourself. But it's not a given that one format is going to sound better than the other, whether it's the higher res or the lower. I won't say lower, but the standard resolution, the 1644. But it's kind of very dependent on what you play.
The interesting thing is that they are people I know say, well, there was a mastering of a record I really like, so I put that in my in my Rune folder as a favorite of mine, so I have it, so it's mine that I kind of own as long as I have the subscription. And then they changed the master to some other master that I don't like at all, and the one that I originally had is gone now. I can't have it anymore. It's like, that's a reason why it's worth buying something that you really like on the version that you like.
Yeah, that's happened before, where they have different masterings that show up, and the remasters are a new remaster is what goes up, and the older one isn't available anymore. It's rare, but there are times where they actually do that. They create a new remaster, but you also have the older version that's still available. And so when you go on Qobuz's selection through Rune or through Qobuz, you're going to see probably 8 different versions of an album that shows up, from the higher resolution down to the lower, and there's like 2 or 3 selections in each one, each resolution, because the masterings are different. There's a 50th year anniversary, there's the original one. If it's a Blue Note, there's a RVG reissue of it that may show up, and so there's a lot of stuff you got to choose from. So when you're looking to play your piece of music and you want to play it the best way that you personally feel it sounds through streaming, you may have to listen to 3 or 4 different offerings and pick the one that you like the best.
I didn't think those RVG remasters were very good. Most of them sounded awful to me. I got a whole stack of those CDs, RVG remastered CDs. I didn't think most of them sounded very good. I don't know what you thought, but
yeah, I kind of shy away from RVG and Blue Note discussions. Some of those recordings are spectacular, but there are other ones that to me are just not, I don't know, they don't fit my preference on playback. And that's almost sacrilege to say that you don't like something from RVG or Blue Note, but nobody's perfect, and there are situations where some of the recordings I don't like, and the remasters in particular, I really don't care for those at all.
Yeah. Well, it's important to remember that people should remember that the original Rudy Van Gelder records were highly compromised, not because it's what he wanted to release, not a sound that he wanted, but because he had to make it playable on the kinds of phonographs that people were buying those records and playing them on. So they had to dynamically compress. Right. They had to cut the bass, and then he boosted the bass at about 90 hertz so that it sounded like there's bass on the record, but there really wasn't. And if you like that, fine, but that's not what he wanted. That's why he hated vinyl. He wasn't a big vinyl fan. He always felt that what he was recording was not being able to be delivered to people's homes, and that upset him. Have you heard the Eddie Lockjaw Davis box set that Kraft put out?
No, I did not.
It's fantastic. Wait, I'm going to get that too. Hold on one second. This box with Shirley Scott is so fantastic. So this was recorded at Hackensack in the living room. So there's all this microphone leakage. And so you're in this living room space, and it's very coherent. And like on one of them, he put the Leslie right in the middle of the room. So the organ is coming at you right from between the speakers. and Davis is playing sax on one side, and he's got the other guy playing flute on the other side, and it's so. This is music for the head, not for the head. It's the music for the heart and the stomach. It's not like mathematical music. It's just like, you know, it's you put this. This is the most fun you could have playing records, as far as I'm concerned. This whole series, really, really good. I have to write the review of it. Really great sound, and it's juicy. That's the word I'd use. It's juicy, and it's just right in the pocket. And man, you can't have more fun than that record.
All right. I have to add more to my list of LPs I want.
Let's spend money, man. Let's spend money.
Yeah. Number 10,001 from Michael says do this. So there, I'm above 10,000 LPs I need to get now.
Yeah, I know. To add to the 10,000 I have already, it's too many records. It's too many records. So we agree it was a great AXPONA, and
yes,
it was a great opportunity for the industry to shine and show itself off to a big city like Chicago, and I think it did. And I think we have to say that JD Enterprises, or JD, whatever they're called, the company that ran it, did a great job this year. And we all owe them a debt of gratitude for putting on a great show. And we look forward to next year, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed the show. It was very good. A lot of work, 200 rooms, over 9,000 attendees, 500 plus products that were there, and hundreds of new introductions. It was a lot. It's a big show. And this is the first year I knew right off the bat there was no way I'm going to get into every room, and there's no way I'm going to get to every new product. And so, but you know, I did what I needed to do and what I could. And yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, I missed a lot of rooms.
Enjoyed it.
Couldn't possibly see every. The other issue I wanted to bring up is, in some cases, in too many cases, the product that you wanted to see was in a room that had a different name on it. It wasn't related to the product, and so unless you knew where that product was, you couldn't find the product because it was in a room that was devoted to something else, or named after something else, or someone else, or it was named after the store that put it there. And I wish there was something they could do about that, where the products were listed someplace, whether it's online. It can't be in the book. Obviously, the book can't have all. But if all the products that were at the show could be listed in what room they were in, as opposed to listing whose room it was, it would help a lot finding things. I couldn't find certain products. I didn't know where they were.
Yeah.
Like SME was in the Bluebird room, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I knew that, but I didn't.
Bluebird's distributor.
Yeah. I didn't. I got to get a sugar cube. You know the sugar cube? Those guys that have that pop and click remover thing. I'm gonna get one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one.
Okay.
It's a good thing.
You're gonna go declicking, huh?
Well, I don't have too many clicks on my records, but some of them have it. And if you're digitizing it, you might as well. If you're digitizing it to put on your Astle current player when you fly, you might as well get rid of whatever pops and clicks there are, because you're going to digitize it anyway. And
yep.
I've got one of those players. It's really fun to listen to vinyl when you're 30,000 feet up, and it's right in your ear, and you still don't hear the artifact of the needle in the groove. You don't hear it when it's done right. It's amazing. I always was afraid. I digitized all this vinyl. I'd put it in my ear, and I would hear. Don't hear any of it. It's amazing.
No.
You know? All right. I think we've covered a lot of subjects. We've covered the waterfront. I'll have to find out whether I could actually, what I said at the beginning about the situation with audio research. I'm not even sure I can run that. I won't run it unless they tell me I can run it, because I don't like to run afoul of the law, or of my promises to certain people in the industry about what's going to happen there. But we'll see. And
yep.
If I cut it out, I'm going to still leave this in here, and people are going to say, what was he talking about? Well, you'll find out soon. So,
yep.
Okay, Andre, great talking with you again. Nice having dinner with you. And that was an enjoyable dinner that we had Saturday night with all the people. And
it was
fun for me to to sit down with people from the Absolute Sound again after 20 something years of not sitting down having dinner with them. It was good, really good.
Yeah,
everything's good.
Yeah, it was good. So we'll look forward to many more.
Yes, sir.
That'll be
Okay,
fun.
man. All right.
All right.
Talk to you.
All right. Take care, Michael.
When we have something pressing to talk about, we'll do another lunch.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, man.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.